1 hour. That's how much time is left for the White House to justify the president's temporary travel ban to a federal appeals court. It has until 6 p.m. Eastern to present more arguments to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. The question then remains, will the court reinstate the president's executive order? Washington State and Minnesota filed paperwork this morning to support their stance against the travel ban, saying it would unleash chaos. On Friday, U.S. District Judge James Robart ruled that both states had standing to challenge the order, issuing a nationwide restraining order against the immigration ban. This weekend, the president tweeted, "The opinion of this so-called judge, which essentially takes law enforcement away from our country, is ridiculous and will be overturned." Today, Mr. Trump reiterated the need to restrict some immigration during his first visit to CENTCOM.
You've been seeing what's been going on over the last few days. We need strong programs so that people that love us and want to love our country and will end up loving our country are allowed in, not people that want to destroy us and destroy our country. Freedom, security, and justice will prevail.
All right, so this is all coming down. I want to talk process before the merits of this. Kimberly, let's start with you because you worked with the Ninth Circuit Court in California.
I'm still licking my
wounds. The scars from it. So the process is this: the district court had a ruling.
Yeah.
I do think that the government's position, the federal government's position, is going to prevail eventually. But you have a problem potentially in that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, it's a 3-judge panel. Looks like it's 2 liberals, 1 moderate. If that court does not agree with the Trump administration, then it reverts back to the lower court, or they take it to the Supreme Court, where we have a tie right now, 4-4, because we're waiting for Gorsuch to get confirmed. Do I have the process right?
You 100%. You nailed it. So I'm going to give you an honorary.
I got an A, gold star on my first day back.
Civil procedure and
You've
due
never
process.
gotten a B. Let's
be honest. Let's be honest. No, so that's the path, right? But to be honest, does anyone really think that the Ninth Circuit is going to agree with the president? No, because if you just study in terms of the case law and how they come down on certain issues.
Oh, you don't think that they will?
I think that they are not going to agree with President Trump.
Because I think the federal government's position is actually pretty strong with the leeway and the deference it's given to presidents on these issues.
I think that his position is extremely strong, and I'm telling you that this is the reality and the historical precedent of the Ninth Circuit.
They'll still deny it.
Correct. So therefore, his best chance then is, I don't even think going down to a lower court, is going to be to the Supreme Court, but it's currently the way it's constituted, you would predict, by, again, looking at case law
I think he'd probably do better in the Supreme Court.
He has a way better chance in the Supreme Court. And does he need to now wait for his new justice to be confirmed? Does that take this so much further down the road? Because that's really ultimately the best chance that he would have in terms of someone that would actually just look at the law and uphold it and not try to, legislate from the law or from the bench or let politics get involved.
President Trump talked about this with Bill O'Reilly on Sunday. Let's take a look.
I think it was very smooth. He had 109 people out of hundreds of thousands of travelers, and all we did was vet those people very, very carefully.
You wouldn't do anything differently if you had to do it over again?
Look,
some of your people didn't really know what the order was.
Well, that's not what General Kelly said. General Kelly, who's now Secretary Kelly, he said he totally knew, he was aware of it, and it was very smooth. It was 109 people.
All right, Juan, so either on the merits or the process, where do you think it stands?
Well, I think the way you described it was accurate. I disagree, though, that the case is strong for the president. And the reason I say that is, remember what happened with President Obama, with his order trying to limit implementation of DACA, and
the Dreamers.
Yeah, and the state of Texas said, no, that's going to cause us some injury. And therefore, the court ruled in favor of the state. On the same basis, yes, the president has the authority over immigration, but if it's going to affect the states, and in this case you have Google, you have Apple, you have Uber, and several other, and the state of Washington saying they would suffer injury, I think therefore there's a real case to be made, and that's what you're going to hear in the Ninth Circuit.
Surprised you're siding with big business, Juan. Usually
well, I am. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Poor Google. They have it so rough.
Well, 16 states have also filed an amicus brief in support of Washington State.
Wait, with the state's attorneys general. But I wanted to just come to this point very quickly that it's interesting to me. I think the larger story here, because I imagine this will end up in the Supreme Court and it'll be a 4-4 split, and therefore President Trump is not going to win on this one. But I think it's so interesting that Congress, which has tried to stay out of President Trump's way, I think they're worried about the populist wave of Republican support for Trump. They want to ride that wave. They want to get what they can out of it. But here come the courts, and the courts are clearly not of the same mind. They're the big obstacle to President Trump at this moment, and that's why Neil Gorsuch, his nominee to the Supreme Court, is now under pressure to say, hey, Donald Trump, you can't go out there and call somebody a so-called judge and undercut the integrity of the judicial branch.
Well, I think the only thing that the nominee has to say is that he will rule based on the Constitution and doesn't have to get into that.
Can I just correct the record from Juan here? I think the difference between the Obama smackdown by the court and the Trump situation is this deals with national security. Obama was just trying to maybe delay deporting people, but there is major precedent here. The Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1952 gives the president exclusive authority to temporarily suspend the entry of any class of aliens that would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, and Supreme Court precedent. In 1993, the Supreme Court said the president has the power to order a naval blockade to keep Haitians out of the United States. So this judge is an activist judge, and we researched the judge, and we found out in his spare time he does immigration pro bono work for refugees.
What are you talking about?
So there could be a little conflict of interest, and we have him on tape declaring that Black Lives Matter. So this guy may have an axe to grind.
Let me just say, I'll tell you what axe he has to grind. He's a Republican Bush appointee.
So there were some never-Trumpers that also didn't like Trump, too. It doesn't paint the same
you have no
brush.
respect for him as a judge. I think
that's not true. You mean the so-called judge?
So-called, not in my opinion.
One of my worst.
Just like my so-called guest host right here.
Oh, my gosh.
When I was a press secretary, we had the president had introduced a bill called the Clear Skies Act, and it was to deal with air pollution. And every single time the media would call it the so-called Clear Skies Act, and I would call and I'd complain.
So-called.
It was called the Clear Skies Act.
That's actually the name.
Look, they used that on him. I mean, this is a mild one for Trump. He didn't give him a special name like Little Marco.
That's next.
Trump, this was mild, I think. But, you know, does it really, Juan, does it impugn the integrity of a judge? Judges are political now. They are political. People attacked Scalia. You got, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a hero of the left. They are political people now. We should stop pretending that they're not. I mean, if you want to know if judges are political, look at it. How many judges have we seen walking down the street with his hoodie over his head because he's being chased by Jesse Waters?
That's right. I remember President Obama attacked the Supreme Court justices to their face at the State of the Union.
And it was outrageous.
Outrageous.
It was
I remember
outrageous.
You thought that was very outrageous.
But one of the things, Kimberly, is that the State Department does make decisions based on region and not religion. But I do think that the state of Washington, when it files, it will claim religion. And part of the reason they're looking at that is one of the things that from the tweets that President Trump had put out, and also what former Mayor Rudy Giuliani had said about wanting a Muslim ban to be implemented. So now we're a little bit in a situation where it's not clear-cut necessarily.
Right, but nevertheless, they're going to have to look at the document on its face and to determine it and whether or not there is, in fact, a rational basis to support this suspension in travel in the interests of national security. It's certainly within purview of the president. He has an obligation to protect the United States and protect its citizens from threats and terrorist attacks and those that would do us harm, and certainly from radical Islamic jihadists. So he's going to be able to put that forward, that case. I think it's a very strong case. I think if you saw President Obama doing this or President Clinton doing this, it would not be met with the legal ferocity that we have seen.
Well, possibly that's also based on process, though, Jesse, in that you had in the Washington Post and New York Times this weekend senior staff of the White House saying we will do better, and if those things had been the ducks had been in a row initially, they might not be in this situation.
Part of the chaos that you saw was that the Democrats sent protesters to JFK and LAX to gum up the works. And CNN interviews every sad Iranian who got held up at the airport because they didn't make their flight. So I think that, maybe it wasn't done completely smoothly, but they didn't get a lot of help from their enemies either, which I wouldn't expect.
In what way could it have gone smoothly? In what way could they have released this?
You don't want to warn people because then they pour in before you get the thing done.
Don't you think the same things would have happened? The media would have treated it the same way. They still would have gotten the shots.
No, I think that there are a lot of things, and that I think that they know it too. It's what they were telling the New York Times and Washington Post. That yes, they could have done better, and that's actually when you want to change the subject, you give the media a process story, and you have to make a full pivot. I learned that from someone that I worked with before, and I saw it done. It's not fun to have to say, yeah, we could have done a better job, but it actually is what allows you to turn the conversation around so that you can reset it. And I think that they did that successfully in the New York Times.
Juan could have done a better job during this segment.
Well, they could have done a better job with green cards, obviously. People, that was a terrible mistake. They didn't fully inform their own people about the change coming. They didn't go to the legal authorities in state and intel and justice and get it rolled out in such a way that people would have understood the president's concern about national security.
She's saying it's all about communicating the rollout, which wasn't done as best as it could, less so the content of the law.
Kimberly, and said that he thought the rollout was smooth. I don't agree.
Well, he's saying when you look at the net effect, the impact, 109 people, he said that his Secretary Kelly is behind him. Obviously, it's going to be, I don't think under any circumstances could have been something that would be completely smooth given the nature of it.
No, but there would have been controversy, but it would have been smooth in implementation was my point. And to get back to Jesse's point, if there was a trigger here, Jesse, if there was something that had happened as opposed to the Kentucky massacre.
I'll tell you what happened. Do you want to know what happened?
No, I'm going to tell you something. That's fine. Trump's elected. So is that right? So, Jesse, you want a dictator and a king? I don't.
What's being a dictator?
Because he's just going to issue rulings and put
Obama didn't issue any executive orders? Where have you been the last 8 years?
The court's going to decide on whether the president has the latitude to do this. I think the court
president does
say so. Juan thinks he won't. But who are we?
Right.
Welcome back. Once again, the president visited CENTCOM today for the first time in office, and here's more from his speech to the brave men and women of our armed forces.
Our administration will always honor our sacred bond to those who serve, and we will never, ever forget you. Believe me, we will never, ever forget you. We will ensure that the men and women of our military have the tools, equipment, resources, training, and supplies you need to get the job done. Today we deliver a message in one very unified voice to these forces of death and destruction. America and its allies will defeat you.
President Trump is hoping Russia will help us eradicate Islamic terrorism from the globe. Bill O'Reilly questioned him about his position on Vladimir Putin, and it made some headlines.
Do you respect Putin?
I do respect him.
Do you? Why?
Well, I respect a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get along with him. He's a leader of his country. I say it's better to get along with Russia than not. And if Russia helps us in the fight against ISIS, which is a major fight, and Islamic terrorism all over the world.
Putin's a killer.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent? Do you think our country's so innocent?
I don't know of any government leaders that are killers.
Well,
take a look at what we've done, too. We've made a lot of mistakes.
All right, so that was obviously a very interesting interview, and he's also going to have more on it tonight on tonight's program clips we haven't seen. What do you make about the comments about, Bill O'Reilly calling Putin a killer, and then President Trump's response?
It was a strange exchange. When I first saw it, I didn't really know what to think of it. It's not something that I would have said. I think he was just trying to deflect and do some misdirection because Bill was pretty strong with him. And it wasn't a political answer. It was the answer of a businessman. And the only thing I can think of he's trying to say is, like, I'm going to keep the relationship with Russia clean at the jump because we need them for leverage over the Iranians. We want to double team China with the Russians. We want working with the pipelines. We need help with that. We need help with ISIS. That's the only thing I can think of what he was trying to do there. And, you know, maybe he doesn't want to slam the leader he needs to move forward in the international arena right away.
Well, I tell you, you're busy like that one-armed painter. I mean, or wallpaper hanger. You're spinning in every direction. Dana's face is about to explode. I don't think you did so well there, but it's all right.
Faces of the Five.
It's all right. Eric will be back shortly.
But he has a security on the O'Reilly factor.
No, my point to you is you're saying that O'Reilly was so tough. O'Reilly asked him a real question.
That was a good question.
Job. And then he says he says somehow that we, America, the United States of America, that we are
Juan,
engaged in this kind of
activity? It's funny that you're upset about this because the last president, President Obama, said he believes in British exceptionalism.
Oh my!
Believes in Greek exceptionalism.
You're off
and
the
you didn't
rails
say anything then.
You're off the rails.
And so now he doesn't believe in American exceptionalism.
You don't want to talk about the fact that he just said that we, the United States of America, are the equivalent of murderous thugs running the Soviet.
I don't think he was making a moral equivocation. I think what he was trying to say was maybe we do dark things to further our national interests.
Oh my God!
And so does Russia.
I can't even see you anymore. You're so deep in the hole, buddy.
Okay, hold on.
I've got a better
I'm trying to get inside Trump's head for you, Juan.
I don't think
Clean up on aisle 7 here. Go ahead.
He's done it before, though. He has done that. He goes. It's a weird answer. When he's been asked about Russia in the past, and he says, "Oh, hey, we've done things." It's not a good answer. But I got a good. Why doesn't he say, what is this thing about Russia? You keep asking me whether I like Putin. The better answer is I don't know Putin. He always says, I don't know Putin.
He said that in the debate with Hillary. He said,
yes.
I don't know Putin. He's not my best friend.
It's a strange thing, this obsession with Putin and Trump. Yeah. We didn't ask Obama when he wanted to normalize relations with Cuba. We didn't get in his face and say, oh, what about Castro? He's a murderous thug. Do you like him?
We did do that.
I don't think we did.
We did that.
Who did that?
We did that right here.
I did it. I did it.
You did it?
I did
Even
it right
Juan
here.
did it.
Juan, but you don't believe that Trump is not a patriot.
Why would he call us, the American people?
He ran his whole campaign on nationalism and patriotism.
That's fine, but you kidding me? You think American leaders, American presidents are poisoning our political opponents? No, I don't believe it, Jess.
Well, I think he's saying, but, we have gone to war. We have defended our country. This is not, a country that has always lived in peace. Right? I mean, we have to do what we need to do to defend ourselves.
That's
and
a different
security.
Ball of wax than poisoning people, invading neighboring countries.
Throwing journalists out of windows from their apartment buildings.
I think he meant to say what I said.
I think Trump would like to throw a few journalists out the window as well. Maybe he wouldn't say that on TV.
But however, we don't do that. Right. Therefore, we are different.
That's right.
We don't have thugs like that.
I like the answer, though, when he says, do you respect Putin? He says, yes.
No,
I don't necessarily like him, but I respect him.
I was with him like 99% of the way. I was like, absolutely. In fact, when he said, today we deliver a message in one unified voice to these forces of death and destruction, America and its allies will defeat you. And I'm like, that reminded me of you're either with us or you're against us.
Right.
I'm with them all the way up until then. And then it always seems to say one thing where I'm like,
but I don't think he was referring to any U.S. presidents. I think he's referring to U.S. military presidents versus we don't have anybody that was the head of the KGB that was playing with Polonius.
No, I understand that. Yes.
It's a one-day situation. It's a small gaffe. It's going to be forgotten tomorrow, despite what Juan wants it to be.
Because there'll be something else.
Tom, you had another comment?
Well, I mean, Mr. O'Reilly, who I will not criticize, but he didn't say Putin poisons people. What do you think of that? He said kills
Putin's
people.
A killer.
He says he's a killer. Okay.
But
so he gave him...
just like we're expected to understand what Trump meant, or
yeah.
like you're saying, you know what O'Reilly meant when he said that. He's talking about people who mysteriously have organ failure because they are against the government.
Well, he did give him a little bit of, again, I'm not going to criticize Bill O'Reilly, okay?
All right, well,
so brave.
For more on O'Reilly and Jesse's job security, catch the O'Reilly Factor tonight. More of that exclusive interview with President Trump. New clips that you have not seen yet at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight.
Last week, President Trump spoke with a number of world leaders, including the presidents of Mexico and the Prime Minister of Australia. Details of those particular calls leaked out to the press, and the president thinks he knows who's responsible. In an interview with Fox News contributor Judith Miller, Mr. Trump blamed, quote, Obama people, holdovers from the last administration. He said, quote, it's a disgrace that they leaked because it's very much against our country. It's a very dangerous thing for this country. The president said those people are being replaced. Dana, what do you think?
Well, I don't know the particulars. I know that that was a weird camera shot. Did you see that?
I don't know what was going on
underneath the band. I'm short, but I'm not that short. As White House press secretary or even as a deputy, I don't remember having to deal with leaks like this in my own personal experience. If we dealt with a leak in the media about a national security issue or a world leader call, it almost was always the other side that was leaking it. I saw Kellyanne Conway's comments.
You mean the other countries leaking?
Right. So, for example, we would do a call with the Iraqi government every other Wednesday. And sure enough, before I got upstairs, Reuters would have a story based on the spokesperson from the Iraqi government reading out the call to them from their point of view. So then Reuters would call me and say, what did you see or what did you hear while you were on the call? And so that was our stopgap. We didn't tape the calls, at least world leader calls, but there were detailed notes. So I think that the White House is right to try to track it down, but in my experience, it's usually the other side. I saw Kellyanne Conway's comments, though, about how it was our allies that actually looked bad, so that she didn't think that it was actually leaks from the other country, that they were coming from within somewhere.
Do they think they're from Obama administration holdovers that are left over National Security Council and they're being fired?
Well, no, I think a lot of the focus is on state and holdovers, particularly at state at the moment. The idea being that the readouts had to go to state and that it was leaked there. But the contrary view is that there's so much going on inside the administration with various cliques and groups, and there's a lot of rivalries and distrust, and that this is not a happy situation, Tom.
As usual, the problem is not the leaks themselves, but the narrative that's created by the press after the leaks come out. We've had mischaracterizations of all these leaks. We had they said he hung up on the Australian Prime Minister. He didn't hang up. They said he was going to invade Mexico. That's a mischaracterization of what happened. So it doesn't matter. These leaks, they're perfectly innocent. The leaks, the information, if you look at what was released, it's nothing bad. But the press spins it into an anti-Trump story.
Right, so why would the Australian Prime Minister's team leak that he got hung up on? That's why I don't buy that it's always our allies that are doing the leaking. I do think there are these people, either never-Trumpers or Obama holdover officials that are trying to actively undermine the current president from within, and he needs to get to the bottom of it.
He knows who's doing it. They're not going to be around. Trust me.
Throw him out the window.
Bye. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Pick up your favorite coffee cup.
By the way, Politico was reporting that Steve Bannon, one of the president's top aides, wants to hire his own PR person, Dana. Is this
you know what? I refuse to believe that until there's actually more evidence of that. So for today, you have Jackson Deal, one of the editorial board writers of the Washington Post, writing an article about how the media got the national security, who was going to be on which principals committee and et cetera, that they got it wrong, and that the White House didn't explain it well, and the media reported it incorrectly. And so I think that the White House has a legitimate beef with the press. Yep. I also think, though, that in the articles this weekend, in which they have senior staff on the record saying we will do better from the White House point of view, that maybe things will just settle down in a couple weeks.
So if you look at this from the outside, Kimberly, do you have a sense that it's been a rough few weeks as the president tries to come to terms with being president, with governing as opposed to campaigning?
No, I think he's actually been very on point in terms of what he wants to accomplish. He's used to the press behaving like this. He expects it from places like the New York Times, so it's just sort of par for the course. He's been battle tested for so long now that none of this is coming as any surprise, and he's trying to remain, undeterred in his focus in terms of what he's promised that he wants to do. Sure, there's going to be where you have situations where there's roadblocks or there's setbacks that you're seeing, but the press's unhealthy obsession with like Steve Bannon, the rest of it is just bordering on, hysteria. And the misinformation that's coming out, it's just not true. I don't know it just from the outside. I know it from the inside.
All right. That's one lady's opinion.
It was cute. It's funny. I'd rather us be talking about the issues that the president is so committed to helping Americans on, but, it's part of American culture.
You could have used some props there in that one, couldn't you? Pull out the props. Dana, you were in the White House in a more innocent time, weren't you? Did they ever?
I call it the Victorian age.
Did they ever do?
No,
Dana Perino? No.
I must have been really boring.
Aww.
They never, but that's fine.
That's
I didn't
what
want any
be,
attention,
right?
And I think that's what Sean was saying is that
I love the
found humor in it, but that he, as the press secretary, you don't want to be the story. You shouldn't be. The story should be focused on the president.
Yeah, but they're gonna.
But it was funny, and I think Sean has a great sense of humor. I'm sure he laughed.
I thought it was amazing.
He actually said Saturday Night Live was kind of mean, but he was talking about to Trump, not himself.
Right.
He took his own impersonation in pride.
Look at the squirt gun. We said they would have washed out your filthy mouth. The squirt gun with soap. I love it.
Are they going to be able to keep this up, though, KG? I mean, with the
Yes, of course.
Do you think all through the 4 years they're going to be able to lead their show with a Trump thing?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think Melissa McCarthy is like unbelievably talented, and she was killing it in the Super Bowl, too. She had
Hilarious.
a very, very funny Super Bowl commercial. So I was like, wow, the two of those, she's just like the king. So there's obviously going to be, some desire to have her come back and do this. Everyone was going crazy because it was so hilarious. And the CNN was in the cage and a diaper and the fake news. I mean,
They'll do something soon that will surprise you because there is plenty of material and they will go after the Democrats, I think, within the next month.
She's way better as Sean Spicer, I think, than Baldwin is as President Trump. No
But
doubt.
let me just say, both of those casting moves were extraordinary because I didn't recognize her, Chris. I didn't know who it was. And it's even better when you realize it's Melissa McCarthy. It's just really... She's transformed herself. And the gum, knowing Sean Spicer and the fact that he chews a lot of gum, I just thought, he said it was over the top hyperbole with the gum.
He said it was too much. He doesn't chew that much gum.
He does chew gum, and he swallows, he swallows the gum.
Yeah. That was super beast mode. I loved it.
All right, we got to go, all right?
All right.
One more thing is up next.
It's time now for one more thing. Juan.
Well, family pride just overflowing at my house this weekend. My son Antonio was named a Presidential Leadership Scholar for the class of 2017. The highly selective program seeks to help a diverse group of young leaders prepare to face society's and America's greatest challenges. Tony, along with 59 others, will get to travel to the 4 presidential centers throughout the country named after Presidents Johnson, Clinton, and both Bushes. He'll hear from the former presidents, White House officials, and more. I could go on and on about this, about the amazing program, about my pride in Tony. I'm so proud of him. But anyway,
God bless him.
Just wonderful. And I want to do a hat tip to my friend Dana Perino, who was the one who alerted me and Tony to the program.
Yeah, it's a great program. And I'll be speaking there May 12th.
Oh, nice.
No, but it's a really good program. I wish that I could participate because you get to meet a lot of people. And he is a great young leader. You've raised 3 of them, and the grandchildren are following closely behind.
Yeah, so Tony's at Comcast, and he'll 6 months, dynamic, and they build, just like Dana's talking about, a wonderful network of alumni who really work together after the program.
So exciting.
Very cool.
And congratulations to you, Juan.
Yes, you're a good daddy.
Oh, my God, the best family,
And what
right?
about you, KG?
Well, in something slightly royal. Kimberly's Royal News. Yes, in case the Crown didn't give it away. How's that? I don't know.
You got it?
Kind of. Okay, Queen Elizabeth II, it's a little bit hard to look down and do this, has become the first British monarch to reach the milestone of 65 years on the throne. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Yeah, so they celebrated it today with a 41-gun salute, which is really incredible. And there you see it right there. And interestingly, she does not celebrate the anniversary of the date that she actually ascended to the throne and became queen, because that is the anniversary of her father's death. I can relate to that. So she didn't want to have a celebration on that day. So long live the queen.
So this was the day she was that she was crowned.
Yes, and she surpassed Queen Victoria as Britain's longest-serving monarch in 2015.
The women can
Unbelievable.
live long.
Such longevity
in the UK. Yes.
Do you, this is from you, because I am Juan's queen. He may not realize it. He resists it, but he gave this to me for Christmas.
Yes.
Well, I don't have a cool Nexio for this next thing, but I might try one because I had never done a girls' weekend until this weekend, and I had so much fun. I started out in Nashville at the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. 9,000 people. It was an amazing group of people. It was like going home. I loved it, and then I got to go to Ann Patchett's bookstore in Nashville, independent bookstore called Parnassus. Huge turnout, big fans of Fox News and the Five. So, and there's Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn who came to see us. Then we got to go to the Opry, and we went backstage. We saw Trace Adkins. That's KG's favorite. I said hi to him for you. Yeah. And that's Josh Turner, like deepest voice in country music, and a fan of the show, which was good to see. And then we went to Tootsie's. We saw Jake Maurer, who is a wonderful singer there. That's Kevin Lawler, Kyle Jennings. It was just like the best weekend. A lot of shopping, and Janice Gatlin too. Could not have been better.
You had the best weekend ever.
I had the best weekend, except for I wasn't at the Super Bowl, but Jesse was. Your DVR, so you never miss an episode of The Five. That's it for us. Special Report is next.